What happens when one of the most glamorous icons in pop culture sits across from a journalist who doesn't flinch at asking the uncomfortable questions? On CBS Sunday Morning, millions tuned in expecting a light-hearted glimpse into Jennifer Lopez's latest project. What they got instead was something raw, revealing, and at times heartbreaking. Tony Dokoupil didn't attack. He didn't provoke. He simply asked. And Jennifer responded not as J-Lo's superstar, but as Jennifer, the woman. The topic? Not just her music, not just her career, but something much deeper. Why, after all this time, does she still feel the need to prove herself? In a matter of minutes, what began as a promo tour turned into a moment of reckoning, about fame, about failure, and about the kind of emptiness no award can fix. This wasn't just another celebrity interview. It became a mirror held up to one of the most celebrated women in the world, and what she saw stunned everyone.
The camera pans across a softly lit studio, the kind reserved for legends, not guests. A string melody plays. Framed photos of past icons fade in and out on screen. Then the voiceover. She's been called an icon, a mogul, a dreamer, and sometimes a diva. Jennifer Lopez enters in a white fitted dress, not loud or flashy, but effortless. At 54, she moves with the elegance of someone who's had the spotlight chase her for decades. Her smile lands like clockwork. Perfect, practiced, powerful. Tony Dokoupil, sitting across from her, doesn't flinch. His expression is calm, neutral, respectful, but clinical. His first words aren't compliments. They're simple. You've done more in your life than most people dream of. Why are you still working so hard? Jennifer laughs. It's the kind of laugh that fills a room. Sharp, genuine, seasoned by years of answering the same question in different forms. Because I love it. I was born to do this. I don't know what I'd do if I stopped. The two settle in. Tony leans forward just enough to signal he's listening, but not enough to surrender. He's not here to be dazzled. He's here to understand. They touch on This Is Me Now, her self-funded musical film about love, identity, and heartbreak. She speaks of it with pride, describing the years of creative control, the rewrites, the rejection. Nobody got it, so I paid for it myself. There's a moment of silence. Tony doesn't move. Then, $20 million of your own money? That's a lot for someone who says she doesn't need validation anymore. Her smile falters, just for a second. It wasn't about proving something, she insists. It was about finally being seen. The lights soften around her face. She looks up at the rafters for a beat, then down at her lap. When you come from where I came from, when people tell you you'll never be more than a backup dancer, when you've had to fight just to stay in the room, you stop waiting for permission. Tony nods, letting her words hang. Then he goes deeper. But you've already won. You've got the fame, the love, the legacy. So why does it still feel like you're chasing? Her body tenses, not noticeably, but if you've watched her for decades, you can see it. The way her hands curl into her lap, the way her shoulders pull slightly inward. I think because I still feel like I haven't told the whole story. There's still more to say. Outside the studio, fans wait with signs. On social media, the interview trends within minutes of airing. J-Lo looks stunning at 54, reads one post. Queen energy, says another. But inside that room, away from the filters and adoration, something else is happening. The glow is still there, but it's being tested, touched, questioned. Tony leans back. His tone is still gentle, but firmer now. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you just stopped? Jennifer exhales, eyes narrowing, not in irritation, but in thought. No one's asked her that before, not seriously. I think I'd be afraid. Afraid I'd disappear. It's not the answer people expect from someone whose face has been on billboards for 3 decades, but it's the truth, a quiet, unfiltered truth spoken not by J-Lo, the global brand, but by Jennifer, the woman still chasing something she can't quite name. The glow doesn't fade, but for the first time in the interview, It flickers.
The studio remains warmed and glowing, but something in the air has shifted. The conversation has stopped feeling like an interview and started feeling like a negotiation between two truths, two lived realities. Tony Dokoupil taps the corner of his notepad gently, as if weighing which thread to pull next. Jennifer crosses her legs, gaze steady, smile faint but polite. The tension isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's in the silences. It's in the restraint. You've said this film, This Is Me Now, was the most honest you've ever been. But critics called it self-indulgent. Some called it confusing. Did that hurt? Jennifer straightens. It's not the first time she's heard this question. But today, it lands differently. Of course it hurt, she says. But that doesn't mean they were right. Tony presses gently. Were they wrong? She pauses. They weren't ready. There it is, that fire. Not defensive, not theatrical, just sharp, just tired. I didn't make the film for people to understand me. I made it because I finally understood myself. Tony listens, but his job isn't to make her comfortable. It's to find the space between performance and truth. But why now, he asks. Why does someone who spent decades being adored suddenly need to be understood? Jennifer blinks. The room holds its breath. Because adoration is not the same as love, she says. A beat. People adored me when they were mocking me, when they were laughing at my relationships, when they were tearing apart my body in magazines. That wasn't love. Tony folds his hands, and Ben. Her eyes flicker. The room shifts again. Ben loves me for who I was, before any of this, she says softly. He saw the scared girl from the Bronx under all of it. And when you have that kind of love, you start asking why you ever settled for less. It's quiet. Tony nods, but he's not done. But some people say this public love story is curated, a brand extension, a narrative. She doesn't smile this time. Those people don't know me. Do you think the world has ever known you? He asks. That lands deeply. Jennifer looks away, just for a second. When she turns back, her voice is steadier, but lower. No, I think the world knows who they think I am. The Jenny from the block image, the glam queen, the ex-wife, the rebound, the comeback. But the woman behind all that, she's had to fight for air. Tony sits back, the silence deliberate. The next question isn't written in his notebook. Why do you think that is? She inhales. Because I've never made people uncomfortable enough to pay attention. Until now. The air is heavy. Not hostile, but undeniably full. This isn't the version of Jennifer Lopez we see on red carpets. This is the woman who built her own table, funded her own seat, and then still had to beg to be heard. Tony's tone softens, for real now. So what happens if the film fails? Jennifer doesn't blink. Then it fails. But at least I didn't. Because? Because I didn't betray myself. It's subtle, but you can feel it. A shift in control. Tony came with questions, but Jennifer brought answers she's never said out loud. Not to the media, not to herself. She's not trying to sell anything anymore. She's trying to be seen. In a world of carefully edited moments and glossy brand deals, this one feels raw, uneasy, beautiful, and it's only beginning to unravel.
Tony's tone turns quieter, but his next words carry weight. There's a scene in This Is Me Now where your character drowns in her wedding dress. You called it symbolic. Of what? Jennifer pauses, visibly still. The air shifts. No one moves in the control room. Of expectation, she finally says. Of how people think love should look. Of how I kept putting on the dress for someone else's ending. Whose ending were you living? Tony asks.
She breathes in, deeply. Her voice drops. Everyone's. The media's. My fans. My mother's. Even Ben's sometimes. I thought if I could fit into the perfect version of myself, everything would finally stay. Stay? Tony echoes. She nods, fighting tears. I've been afraid of being left my whole life, she says. You grow up watching your parents scream in a tiny Bronx apartment. You learn early. Don't be too much. Don't make them leave. She looks away for a second, lips pressed together. I became Jennifer Lopez because I was terrified of being invisible as Jennifer. That's when the silence breaks, not with a sound, but with a shift. The audience watching at home doesn't know whether to cheer or cry. Neither does Tony. He waits. Then, do you think you're finally visible now? Her answer comes slowly, one syllable at a time. I think I'm finally seeing myself. It's not a quote. It's not a headline. It's a reckoning. Jennifer wipes the corner of her eye. Not dramatic, just human. No makeup check, no perfect lighting fix. She stays in it. This film, this music, it's not a comeback. It's a calling home. To me. Tony softens. Do you feel safe with yourself now? Jennifer nods, barely. I'm learning. And just like that, the flashpoint isn't loud or explosive. It's quiet, vulnerable. A woman sitting in her truth, no longer apologizing for being soft, for being bold, for being all the things people said she couldn't be at once. It isn't the tears that make this moment go viral. It's what follows. Jennifer turns to the camera, as if suddenly remembering we're all watching. If you've spent your life being what everyone needs, take a minute today to ask what you need. And if that answer scares you, that's probably where your healing starts. Tony says nothing. He doesn't need to. The world has already heard enough to feel everything. And in that moment, America doesn't see a superstar. It sees a woman unafraid to glow and break.
By Monday morning, the internet was on fire. Clips from Jennifer Lopez's CBS Sunday Morning interview flooded every platform. Her tearful admission, I became Jennifer Lopez because I was terrified of being invisible as Jennifer, had been shared over 12 million times in 24 hours. Some called it her bravest moment yet. Others called it strategic vulnerability. The divide was instant. On Twitter, fans rallied. That wasn't a celebrity crying, that was a woman we've all been at some point. J.Lo didn't give an interview, she gave a masterclass on healing. Let her be human, she's earned that. But the critics came just as fast. One headline read, "Too much, too late. Lopez weaponizes sadness to sell a movie." Another, "The performance of pain, when celebs cry on cue." Even some in the media began debating whether the interview had been too soft, too emotionally manipulative. Was Tony Dokoupil too gentle? Was Jennifer in control, or was she spiraling? Tony himself took to Instagram with a rare comment. Sometimes, the most honest thing you can do is sit still while someone lets go of a lifetime. Meanwhile, Jennifer's team stayed quiet, but she didn't. 3 days later, she posted a single image, a photo of her 9-year-old self standing on a Bronx sidewalk, gap-toothed and beaming. The caption read, "She never wanted to be famous, she just wanted to be enough." It had over 5 million likes in 6 hours. Behind the scenes, CBS was stunned by the response. Ratings had soared, higher than any Sunday morning episode in over a decade. Producers were flooded with emails, many from women over 40. "Thank you for showing what real strength looks like. I saw myself in her for the first time. This interview made me forgive myself." But not everyone was forgiving. A well-known media columnist wrote, "Jennifer Lopez is undeniably talented, but let's not confuse branding with bravery. If she truly wants to be seen, she needs to do more than cry on cue." That comment hit hard, but it also revealed something deeper. The world still struggles to believe that women, especially famous ones, can hurt without an agenda. And that was the real fallout. Not the headlines, not the tears, but the mirror held up to a culture obsessed with perfection, yet suspicious of pain.
Was Jennifer Lopez manipulating the audience, or was she simply letting go of decades of being manipulated by everyone else? That question remained unanswered. And maybe that was the point.
Weeks passed, but the ripples didn't fade. Unlike most celebrity interviews that vanish into the streaming void, Jennifer Lopez's sit-down with Tony Dokoupil lingered in conversations, classrooms, podcasts, even therapy rooms. What began as a promotion for This Is Me Now had morphed into something larger, a public recognition with the weight of reinvention and the emotional toll of always having to prove you belong. Jennifer didn't respond with another press tour. She didn't do the follow-up circuit. She let the silence breathe, something she'd rarely done in her decades-long career. But the world was still talking. In a guest op-ed for The Atlantic, a sociologist wrote, Jennifer Lopez's emotional reveal wasn't just a celebrity moment. It was a mirror for millions of women who've spent their lives performing worthiness. Her interview cracked open a truth long buried beneath ambition, that success without self-acceptance is its own kind of prison. College campuses began citing the interview in media and gender studies courses, examining how women in power are expected to radiate strength, but punished the moment they admit to fear. J.Lo became more than a brand. She became a case study in contradiction. And Tony Dokoupil? He received quiet praise in journalism circles, not for provoking, but for listening. That interview taught me something, he later said at a media panel. Sometimes the most radical act isn't the question. It's the pause you allow after the answer. Meanwhile, Jennifer's fans embraced a new side of her, one less polished, more real. Women wrote open letters, grandmothers posted TikToks quoting her, therapists played the clip in sessions. But perhaps the most meaningful legacy came from Jennifer herself. On the one-year anniversary of the interview, she posted a video, not glam, not rehearsed, just her, walking through the Bronx in a hoodie and jeans. She stops by a stoop and sits. This is where it started, where I learned how to be loud enough to matter, but I never learned how to be quiet enough to hear myself. I'm learning that now. A pause. If you're watching this and you feel like you've been performing your whole life just to be loved, stop. You're already enough. You always were. No makeup, no filters, just Jennifer. And in that moment, it didn't matter whether people believed her, questioned her, or analyzed her. She had nothing left to prove, only something to share. A legacy not of image, but of impact.
If you liked this powerful moment, make sure to subscribe for more celebrity clashes, emotional showdowns, and unforgettable TV moments. Drop a comment below. Do holidays still matter to you?